Hello, ma'am. Hello, classmates. We are the reporter together with Mr. Criston Sorino, and we will be discussing you about the framework and principles behind our moral disposition frameworks. This is a virtue ethics. Since Criston Sorino already discussed you about the meaning of ethical framework, let's have the first recap about what is ethical framework. So, he already discussed that ethical framework is a set of codes that an individual uses to guide his or her behavior. It is another term for moral standard, distinguish right from wrong in the way they interact with the world you use to determine object of an action. So that is the meaning of ethical framework, which in short, it is the guidelines on how a person interact with the world. So the ethical framework, answering the two questions. First, what do I ought to do, and what do I ought to do so? So that must be the question that you will be going to answer if you are going to identify the ethical framework of a person. So let's focus on the various dominant mental frames that may be classified as first, virtue or character ethics of Aristotle. Second, the natural law or commandment ethics of St. Thomas and others. Third, the ontological and duty framework of Immanuel Kant. And the fourth, utilitarian, teleological, consequentialist approach, and love and justice framework. Now let's discuss about the virtue or character ethics of Aristotle. So virtue ethics asks who is the ethical person. For Aristotle, the ethical person is virtuous, one who has developed good character or has developed virtues, one of the impossibilities, the highest of which is happiness. Happiness is the joy of self-realization, self-fulfillment, and the experience of having actualized one's potential. So therefore, virtue ethics or character ethics of Aristotle focus on Aristotle's teaching, which developing moral character and embodying virtues such as courage, honesty, and compassion to lead a good life. Example here, a person who consistently practice honesty in all aspects of their lives, even when we face with temptation to lie, exemplifies virtue ethics. Now, that is the example of the virtue ethics. So, person using the decision making through the aspect of their lives and face it with a good decision. The next is the natural law or commandment ethics of St. Thomas. For St. Thomas, what is right is what follows the natural law, the rule which says do good and avoid evil. In knowing the good, as distinguished for evil, one is guided by the Ten Commandments, which is summed up as a loving God and one's fellow man. So therefore, an natural law or commandment ethics of St. Thomas and others focus on the asserts that moral principles are derived from the reason and divine commands, guiding individuals to act in accordance with inherent moral laws. So example, following the Ten Commandments and Christianity as a moral guide for ethical behavior reflects commandments ethics within a natural law framework. So the keyword there is that the natural law or commandment ethics is that we are guided by the moral standards. And the next is the deontological and duty framework of Immanuel Kant. So according to Kant framework, deon or duty or deontological framework centers on the rights of individual and the intention associated with particular behavior. Equal respect given to all persons, and the deontological approach is based on universal principles such as honesty, fairness, justice, and respect for person and property. It is based on the categorical, empirical imperative that is one must act such that his or her maxim will be the maxim of all. The acting based on a maxim that can be the maxim of all is a duty, an obligation of every man or woman. Acting out of duty, deon, is acting out of goodwill or intention, treating man as an end, not a means to an end, is acting with goodwill or intention. So, In doing the ontological and duty framework of Immanuel Kant, something is considering, or in doing an action, you should expecting something that has a goodwill. So therefore, Kant's deontological ethics emphasizes moral duties and principle with a focus on following universal moral laws out of a sense of duty rather than considering consequences. Example, refraining from lying even if it may prevent harm. Because lying is inherently wrong according to Kant's categorical imperative, illustrate deontological ethics. Then the next is utilitarian teleological consequentialist approach. The utilitarian teleological approach focuses on the consequentiality of decision makers, is concerned with the utility of decision. What really counts is the neat balance of good consequences over bad. The rightness of action depends on the said net balance of good consequences. For the deontological and duty framework, what is right is based on the categorical imperative. That is, one must act such that his or her maxim will be the maximum of all. So, ang utilitarianist or teleological and consequential approach evaluate action based on their outcomes, aiming to maximize overall happiness or utility. Teleological ethics assess action based on their ends or goal. So there will be the possible outcomes that you are expected to do. So in doing a decision making, you are going to emphasize what is the goodness of all. Example, choosing to donate to a charity that helps a large number of people, leading to greater overall happiness, aligns with the utilitarian approach to ethics. So that's the example of utilitarian, teleological, and consequentialist approach. Next is the love and justice framework. What is ethical is that which is just and that which is loving. Justice giving what is due to others, while is giving even more than what is due to others. So this means that the love and justice framework integrates principle of love, compassion, and fairness to guide ethical decision making and promote well-being and equality in the society. Example, advocating for social justice initiatives that address systematic inequalities and promote love and compassion towards marginalized communities embodies the love and justice framework. So this means that the love and justice framework is an example of equality, social equality. So you are owed to do something that will be good from the other also. So you are implementing the equality of what they deserve. So that is the last mental frameworks that I will be going to discuss here. Now, for you to have a deeper understanding, let's have an assessment. Let's first discuss the key takeaways for you to broaden your understanding. So, an ethical framework is a set of moral standards that serves as a guide for all persons to behave ethically and morally. Most common ethical frameworks are virtue or character ethics of Aristotle. Next is natural law or commandment ethics of St. Thomas and others. Then the deontological and duty framework of Immanuel Kant, and utilitarianist, teleological, and consequentialist approach, and love and justice framework. So the assessment here, first, asking that ethical person develops good character. So what mental framework is that? Yes, virtue or character ethics of Aristotle, because it focuses on the characteristic and development of characteristic of a person. Next, an act is ethical if one gives the other what she or he is to do. So, if you're going to give others something that they deserve, what is that? A mental framework of love and justice framework. Next, an act is ethical if it is an obligation expected of every man or woman. So, you are expecting something from the other people. Yes, the ontological and duty framework of Immanuel Kant. That which is right follows the rule, do good and avoid evil. The answer is natural law or commandment ethics of St. Thomas and others, because the word do good and avoid evil. So you are following the guidelines of morally standards. Next, that which is ethical is that which has good consequences. So if there is a good consequences, this is utilitarianist, theological, and consequentialist approach, because you are focusing on the good consequences of the greater number of people. And number 6, an act is ethical if one gives the other more than what he is due. This means love and justice, because you are giving more than what they deserve. So if you are giving something that they deserve, you're promoting an equality of society. To act is ethically, one must act in a way that he wishes others to act in the same way. So if you are expecting an outcome, this means that you are considering the mental framework of the ontological and duty framework of Immanuel Kant. Yes. Next is an act is ethical if it brings about the greatest good for the greater number of those affected by the act. So that means it's a utilitarianist, theological, and consequentialist approach. What is good is written in a person's very being. So that is the natural law or commandment of St. Aquinas or St. Thomas. So I guess that's all for my report together with my co-reporter Kriston Sorino, and I hope you learn, and bye-bye. That's all. Thank you.